So we're going to review all 4 operations with decimals. So just up here, we're going to do, we'll do 25.3 plus 7.58, okay, equals. All right, 25.3 plus 7.58. And of course, I'm not saying the numbers correctly. You would say 25 and 3/10 plus 7 and 58/100. Down here, write the plus sign. And then you're just going to make a note for yourself that when you are adding decimals, you line up the decimals. Okay? All right, and because I've got this cool grid paper, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come down a couple of spaces, and I'm actually going to give the decimal its own grid box. Okay? And then I'm going to write the number going around it. Okay? And then I'm going to write my second number, and I'm going to start with the decimal, and then I'm going to fill in around it. Okay? When I am adding, I line up the decimals, and if I've got any place where there's not a number, I can fill in with zeros, because adding a 0 to the far left or right of a number doesn't change its value. Okay, so you fill in zeros anywhere you have a gap. Okay, and then I just add. You drop down the decimal. And that's it. Okay, so adding decimals, line up the decimal, fill in zeros, drop the decimal down. When you are subtracting, okay, let's do 5 minus okay, so I'm going to write the subtraction sign, and again, you line up the decimal. Okay. So I'm going to come down to about here, and I'm going to write that 5. 5's a whole number. There is no decimal. So if I have a whole number with no decimal, I can actually, in addition to filling in zeros, I can just add a decimal to the right of the number. Okay? So I can add a decimal if I need to. And then I write my other number, and I line up the decimals. And I fill in zeros where I need to. Okay. 0 minus 3, I can't do it. I'm going to make this into a 10. So I'm going to box in the 5 and the 0, because I can't borrow from a 0, but I can borrow from 50. Okay, and 1 less than 50 is 49. 10 minus 3 is 7. 9 minus 8 is 1. Okay, drop the decimal. And then 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, so in both adding and subtracting, you just line up the decimal. Okay. Now we're going to do a multiplication. So I'm going to come down here. Okay. And I'm going to do 9.8 times 0.62. 9.8 times 0.62. I'm going to write that multiplication symbol. And I've taught it before where I say you line up the digits, but I think the way I want to explain it today is just ignore the decimal until the end. Okay? So we're going to write this like we would write it if it was 98 times 62. We're just going to ignore the decimal until the end. And because I'm going to come down a couple lines. Because I'm ignoring the decimal, I'm not going to bother giving it its own little box. Okay? So when I was lining up decimals, I gave the decimals their own place. Right now I'm ignoring them. Okay? So I've got 98, and I've got 0.62, and I'm going to multiply. Okay? So 2 times 8, 16, 18, 19, place holding 0, 6 times 8 is 48, 6 times 9, 54, plus 4, 58. Okay? I want you to notice that there are no decimals in the partial product. Okay, remember the two numbers you get when you're in the middle of your multiplication are called the partial product? There's no decimals there because we're ignoring them for now. Okay. All right. So you are going to count decimal places for the factors. All right, count the decimal places in the factors. So this one has 1 decimal place. This one has 2. And then the product has as many as both factors combined. All right, I think I need to bring that a little. The product has as many decimal places as both factors combined. Okay, so I have 1 here and 2 here, so I'm going to have 3 in my product. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's where my decimal goes. Okay. So my answer is 6 and 76 thousandths. The product has as many as both factors combined. But this whole counting over business, I only do that with multiplication. Mostly. But I never do it with addition and subtraction. Okay? Because with addition and subtraction, I line them up. You see, there was none of this like skip counting over when I was doing addition and subtraction. All right, I want to do a division one, and then I want to talk about what's the same about division and multiplication. Because with addition and subtraction, the rule was the same. Line up the decimals. Okay, so we're going to do, we will do, hold on. 0.382 divided by 5. Let's try that one. Okay. 0.382 divided by 5. Okay. With division, and this is why I liked writing it this way, with division, you are also going to ignore the decimal until the end. That's how division and multiplication are the same. In both of them, you ignore the decimal until the end. Okay. I'm going to come down 2 lines. Okay. So my dividend is 382 thousandths, or 0.38. I do not have, or 382. I don't have to give the decimal its own little spot because I'm ignoring it for right now. The 5 is the divisor. It goes outside the house. Okay. 5 won't go into 3, but it will go into 38. Okay. It goes into 38 7 times. I have to make sure that I put my 7 above where the 8 is, because it's 5 going into 38, not into 3. Okay. 8 minus 5 is 3. And then I'm going to bring down the 2. 5 goes into 32 6 times. And here's where I would have a remainder. But I'm not going to have a remainder because when you are dividing with decimals, you can keep adding zeros. Okay? Okay? Add zeros to the right. Okay, and once you've added that 0, you can drop it down. And now 5 goes into 20 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20, and now I have no remainder. Okay, now let me bring this up. Okay, so I've ignored the decimal to the end. Okay, at the end, all I have to do is bring the decimal up. Okay, but I want you to notice that the decimal is above the 3. Okay, so I do have to put in a place holding 0 here. Okay, all right. So if you have a gap in your number, like I had to go from 5 goes into 3 0 times, I could have said it that way. Okay, but the other thing I want you to notice, if you look at your dividend, 1, 2, 3, 4. The dividend has 4 decimal places. Look at the quotient. 1, 2, 3, 4. The quotient also has 4 decimal places. So you actually wind up doing the whole counting the decimal places over when you're doing division as well. Only because of the way you set it up, all you really have to do is bring up the decimal. Okay, and that's assuming that there's no decimal in your divisor, but for right now you're not worried about that. Alright, so there's the bottom part. Here's the very bottom, and if you needed to see the top again, there it is. There is your decimal review, decimal operation review.